Well, I'd say I learned a lot today about the initiatives. I hadn't actually heard about most of them, so it was very exciting, very energizing, and it reminded me that if I really want to get excited about where the world is going, talk to the telecoms community because they're not just creative, but they're problem solving every day. And so we saw the rural health, the rural education, the discussion of new forms of mobile phones and new forms of technology for carrying connectivity literally. And this is not just the way the world is going, but I think the way so much of industry is going is thinking about how to leverage their technologies in ways that solve broader social problems. Well, I would share two things. One is the Millennium Development Goals actually include a goal for tackling the digital divide, and so much of what we're seeing here is about providers, operators, infrastructure companies really helping to tackle that in a very direct way through a business case, but also a very forward-looking, broader mindset. The technology is helping to make so many new services available, and it's a platform for doing everything from providing new connectivity for clinics and schools around the world to also even tackling many of the key human resource constraints that a lot of the poorest communities face. So if you don't have a doctor or a nurse in a particular location, you can have a doctor or nurse in another location look at the patient file or look at the image or look at the diagnostic that's now possible through the simplest technologies. So that's a really big deal, is the way connectivity is helping to make all sorts of new forms of services available and really leapfrog where there are human resource gaps in the world too, because distance doesn't need to be such a barrier. The other thing I would share is that we're focusing on a new initiative called Connect to Learn, which is with Ericsson and with the Earth Institute at Columbia and Millennium Promise and Madonna as a global spokesperson. We're looking at how to expand access to not just secondary education, but connected secondary education. And how can the next generation really be anchored in not just connectivity of their school to the web, but connectivity between schools and between communities around the world, because there's no reason that in 2020 every school in the world couldn't have access to a global library and access to each other. And I actually think that that's the type of connection that, with the leadership of the telecoms community and also with the governments and broader policy partnership, can help us make sure that the climate negotiations of 2025 are much more enlightened and empathetic towards the rest of the world's perspective, but also much more successful, because people will have become used to working together across time zones and borders as part of their normal life. And that's what we really need to do, is connect to learn and connect to solve problems around the world. We, all of us who aren't in government, really have to, I think, hold our government leaders to account, but also let them know that their leadership is crucial. And we want to support them to come to strong agreements, and we want them to ask for help when they need it too. The government leaders have real responsibilities, and different countries have very different pressures, but we need them to set timetables for solving these problems.